Au revoir.
All right, we are rolling. Welcome to another episode of FitPet Boston Talks. This is going to be episode number 42. My name is Leah Lodato. I am joined today by my co-host, Laurie Lodato, a.k.a. my partner in crime here.
Hello.
And yeah, we're coming off of a really busy week. It is Friday, and it has been raining.
Let's start off on a positive note. The weather and the new Delta variant. Happy 4th.
Yes, we have a hurricane. It has been raining all day. I was forced to take the day off of work today because I had all hikes on my schedule. And with a few claps of thunder this morning, it just wasn't the best call. So had the day off today, got a bunch of reading done, which I was super excited about. And in general, we've been pretty busy. Right, Laurie?
Yes.
I wish you could all see Laurie's facial expressions. Yes, it's almost too busy. What would you say?
Yeah, it's been an adjustment now that COVID is over.
Yeah. So Laurie and I both train dogs. I walk dogs primarily during the day. I'm out in the woods, out on the streets. I work in Medford and Winchester, Mass. And Laurie trains dogs. I do a little bit of training myself, but my forte is really being with the dogs, exercising them in whatever way is fit for them and safest. And we've been pretty swamped, I would say, with new client inquiries, people needing to find somebody to exercise their dogs while they go back to work.
To normal life.
Yeah, to normal life-ish. And we've been pretty swamped. And I think that the feeling is kind of mutual in the dog world because I have the blessing of being connected with other local trainers via this podcast and also just being friendly with people, I think, in general. And I think a lot of you guys, if you're listening to this podcast and you work with dogs, you've been having a pretty busy schedule. So we are thinking of you, and
we're here with you.
And we are here with you.
And we should probably start a support group. We were talking to another friend, and I had posted this Samuel L. Jackson 2 photos before you start dog training, where he's looking pretty sly, and then after you've been doing it for a while, and he looked disheveled, and he was sweaty and.
I don't know which movies they were from.
T-shirt on and just a disaster. I feel like if you look like a disaster and you're kind of disheveled as a dog trainer, I feel like you might be doing it right. Like if you have a dog trainer that comes to your house and
they look normal.
Yeah, they're looking good.
They look fly.
They're looking sly. Yeah, they have like bright eyes, no bags under their eyes, and their clothes are perfectly pressed and there's no hair on them. That should raise a flag.
Red flag.
Red flags for trainers and boarding facilities. If they look good, something's going wrong. You have to look like hell.
Yeah, there have been a couple of days in the past few weeks where I've done a training class in the evening, and I've like snuck a shower in between walking and then going to my training class, and it just puts me in this really weird because I'm like relaxed to go into the class.
Yeah,
but I'm totally not relaxed because I'm completely exhausted. Like one of the things that I really struggle with is the heat. So being out all day in the heat, I'm completely fine. Like I never complain about the weather. Honestly, it was one of those things that I just had to accept getting into the industry and getting into, the job when, you realize like it doesn't matter what it's doing outside. You have to go out there and you have to do it. Days like today, I feel like are a little extreme. It's literally been like torrentially pouring all day long.
And you're just
like,
praying.
All the streets around here are flooded.
Yeah, you're praying that puppy will pee. You're just standing out there like a chooch.
Yeah, but
just please pee. Just please, for the love of God, just pee.
Right.
And then they do the crouching tiger, hidden dragon. And the bullets are raining from the sky. And you just want them to pee. If you pee, you're going to get to play inside. But if you don't pee, you're going to run inside.
And pee on the floor.
You can't fool me, mister. Get outside. And I will not hold an umbrella.
I do. I'm a big pushover.
You will.
I have a big golf umbrella.
You will go.
I help.
I don't. It's just rain.
But it's really, I mean, today is exceptional. Normally, I go outside in any weather, snow, rain, cold, hot, whatever. But the heat really takes it out of me. So by the end of the day, I'm like completely comatose. Like after my shower at the end of the day, I'm just like, I just get into this super relaxed state of mind and I just fall asleep. And so anyway, past couple of weeks I've had classes in the evening, and it would be uncouth to go to these people's houses without taking a shower beforehand.
Yeah, if they're meeting you for the first time, you have to try to be like kind of clean. But if they're coming to me and we're going for another walk or we're going to the woods to work on off leash, or I mean,
you get what you get.
Yeah, and sometimes hey, been a long day. I mean, those might be my most productive classes. What you see is what you get, folks.
Yeah.
Focus on the content.
I've had some productive classes in my kind of weird state of mind, being tired and clean. But I almost have this like out of body experience when I teach private classes, because I went on so many private classes with you in the very beginning. Like,
I know, like 6
100.
a day.
I mean, it was
7 a day.
It was crazy. Like, I've done so many private classes with you that it's almost like I go into this zone where I'm just repeating things that I know that I need to say, because I know, especially if it's that first class, if it's a puppy, I know like there's a list of things that I have to get to with these people, because I might not ever see them again, and I want them to find this.
We do usually.
We do.
98%.
Yeah, 90% of the time we see them.
You can tell when you're looking at the person.
100%.
Especially without your mask on.
Yeah, but I have this like out of body experience where I'm like watching myself because I am saying Loriisms, and
I'm sorry for that.
It's okay.
I'm sorry
People
for
think
you.
It's so funny.
I'm sorry for you.
But I'm so, I learned so much from you, and I went to so many of those private classes, and I just took everything in, and I was lucky in that way. But it's funny to me to be in those situations because it doesn't even faze me. Like, I don't even get nervous. I know exactly what to say. I know exactly what to do. We don't do behavior modification inside somebody's home if it's like a serious thing.
He only attacks people when you walk in the house.
Yeah.
You want to come over?
I did have a
Oh my God, yeah, I want to come over. And you know what? Don't even put a leash on him. Just let him run right up to the door.
That happened to me.
Let him run up.
That
And let him
happened to
aim
me.
at my crotch. That's when I feel most comfortable.
Yeah, so this, I went to a class, and it was a dog. I'm not going to say the breed or anything like that, but the owner just opened the door, and I was at the front door, and nobody uses the front door. They should just get rid of front doors.
Do you think
Don't
so?
you think? It should just be like a
Where
window.
would the
that
Amazon
looked like
packages
a
be dropped
front
off?
door. They can drop it off there, but nobody uses the thing.
Maybe we shouldn't have a front door. Maybe we should have an Amazon drop-off location.
Yeah, that would probably make...
And maybe a number on the house would be helpful as well. Yeah. Maybe that. Maybe not put it on the first step underneath the shrub.
Yeah, I know.
Okay? Because I'm knocking on Martha's door next door. And she's scared of me because I'm bald.
I know, we don't look normal. But that happened. I rang the doorbell, and which I love to do because I like to see what happens when I ring the doorbell.
I know. Plus, I like to see if I'm in the right house.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's the right house.
Ding, ding, ding. But I rang the doorbell. I'm waiting there. Don't hear anything. All of a sudden, this dog is charging at me from the other side of the house. And I was like, all right, well, whatever.
Yeah. I have my bag to block me. That's the first thing I think. I'm like, well, I could always use my bag.
Yeah, and I kind of did. I think I just kind of put the bag in front of me. But the owner was like, I just want you to see what he does. And I'm like, I believe you.
Yeah.
I absolutely believe you if you tell me that he charges strangers at the door or whatever. You don't have to like let this happen because it's just not good. But anyway, the weather has been a thing, especially in New England. We've been having pretty wet summer, and I love to be outside, and I love flowers and such. And I know that like my family has been having,
farmer Leah,
it's been rough
flowers.
with the rain, like getting things going. It's like our ecosystem is such a delicate balance, and I feel like normal people just don't realize that when we have really weird things happen with our weather, it just affects everything. But anyway.
Anywho. Oh, and if your dog has a bad recall and then they like bust out the front door and I'll look at the dog running around in the front lawn. It's the first time I've ever met the person. And I was like, most likely if it's a first visit, this dog does not have a recall and cannot be loose. and it's just flying around the yard. And I was like, it's super bad for business if a dog dies, like in the first 2 minutes of the class. Can you not drop the leash or not let the dog fly out the door? Don't drop the leash.
Yeah.
And wear sneakers. Stop wearing sandals. Yeah. Worse, just put on some shoes if you're in your house. Because what if the dog's wearing a leash and your feet
get on my leash?
And some feet are okay, but I don't want your naked feet
stepping on my leash.
Yeah, I mean, guys. Okay.
Yeah. Well. That is the plight of doing home visits. I love doing home visits though and I know a lot of trainers don't do home visits. I like doing home visits because it really gives you an idea of just what the hell is going on. And I think that it's important, especially if it's a first class and again, you're not dealing with or even if you are dealing with behavior modification, you can make sure that everything is prefaced really well before you go into the situation.
And dogs are different in the house. I knew a really well-behaved dog, and then I go, you know what? Why don't we just go to the house for this next class? And the dog behaves completely different.
Yeah.
And it's because obedience isn't practiced in the house the way it is in front of us. So you always try to, when you go to class, one would hope that you're somewhat prepared. But when you're at home, they're just freewheeling it. So if you don't practice at home or ever, then classes are kind of a waste of your time. You have to practice.
Right.
God.
Yes, you'd have to practice no matter what you are doing. It really makes a huge difference. I shouldn't have to say it, but I really honestly do. And if you are doing training with a dog trainer, you want to change your dog's behavior, you want to improve your relationship with your dog, there is no shortcuts. You have to practice. And if you don't know what to do, you have to work with somebody that has a little bit of flexibility and that can communicate with you. And that's something that I've learned from, which we talked about before, about the fitness team that we are a part of. I think one of the reasons why they see the success that they do is because the level of communication is so high. And I think that I've adapted that into my own kind of style in that I accept training videos. You can send them to me through WhatsApp. If you don't use WhatsApp, you can upload them to YouTube, whatever the case may be. But I find that people do not take advantage of this service, and it is really important to communicate with the person that's helping you, especially if you're somebody like me that accepts videos. Because some trainers, their entire training business is based off of videos. Their entire business is virtual. And it's something for me that I offer to my clients for absolutely free. So if you're in between classes and you have a question about something,
it's included in.
Yeah, it's included in the price of what you pay for the classes. And it's obviously up to. It's not like you're texting me or WhatsApping me at midnight and expecting a response. It's within reason, of course, but...
Or they do at midnight and then we answer the next day.
Yeah, the next day. Whatever. That's totally fine. I have all the notifications on my phone turned off. So anytime that I check everything. I have, email and text turned on. All of my social media, all of my WhatsApp communication, all the notifications are off. But I respond in a timely manner. I make sure that I'm giving critical feedback. And overall, it's something that if you are a client of mine, you can use at any time, and people are not utilizing it enough. And we are not online virtual trainers, but let me tell you, we are having to space out classes farther and farther because we're busy. So it's a great way for you to get feedback in between your lessons. Please take advantage of it if you're a client of ABC Dog Training. If you're a trainer out there that has somehow miraculously managed to acquire adherence to video communication, reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. I will pay you, actually, to teach me your ways, because I think that it is a underused service, and I would love to figure out how I can get a little bit more adherence from my clients. I think it would be a great thing for them.
I think that the best adhering clients are the ones whose dogs have behavioral issues.
Oh, yeah.
Because they have to.
They have no choice. They're going to lose their dog.
Right. So those are the people that usually try the most, the ones with the high energy.
The Cujos.
Well, behavioral issues. And then speaking about time and booking classes, if you hit us up or ask for a class or inquire about services, and then a month later you want to book a class within the next week, that's not going to work. So you should probably just book when the idea is in your head, because then we're pushed out another month. And you should also do the same thing with a vet, because emergency places are closing because of surgeries being lined up. And it's really hard to get a vet unless you have a really good relationship with a vet. They just don't take you these days because that's how many people have got dogs.
Right.
And there's just not enough vets in a clinic to deal with the large number of dogs that have showed up during COVID. So it's crazy. I can't believe what going to the vet is like these days. And they're just as stressed as us. So I feel it. I get it. But it's really important to just have a vet that you build a relationship with so that they'll take you if something happens. Like it could be something as mundane as, a bee sting. And sometimes you can solve those issues with some at-home things, but you can't always. Sometimes your dog will need an injection of an antihistamine to have the swelling go down. Like, I remember when Buddha got his first bee sting. Oh my God, his whole face blew up. I thought it was going to explode. So Benadryl at home won't do the job. By the way, guys, the liquid Benadryl, I should probably look this up, but liquid Benadryl is not safe for dogs.
Good to know.
Regular pill form, the chalky kind, not gel, that is okay. Stuff. You should really call your vet before you give a medication, because one dog had a very bad reaction, not one of mine dogs, but obviously one of those stories that flies around on Facebook. They gave a gel form. You cannot do that. You really need to ask your vet before you give a medication, or your dog could be so severely hurt, much more than they were initially. So please, you really do have to ask the vet, and you can still call an emergency clinic and they'll give you advice over the phone. But like I said, build a relationship.
Yes, and I wanted to add to that as well. I know that this episode is kind of all over the place, but we are going to get into a specific topic in just a minute. But I think the real challenge right now with vets is if you have an issue that is routine, or not routine, but common, like an ear infection, or your dog breaks a toenail, let's say. Those are not emergency. They're not emergencies. For example, one of my clients, walking with them, cut their pad this week. The client, I said, we'll get vet care. Just want to be sure that everything's cool. What definitely wasn't an emergency. She called the emergency hospital, right? The dog had a cut paw. They said, we can't take that. That's for a vet visit. Her vet couldn't see the dog till the following week. We ended up going to another vet.
To our vet. Who is always loyal to us. Always wonderful. 100%. Thank
Love
you so much.
Not even going to give you a shout out because I don't want anybody else to use you.
Oh my God. Well, yeah, like those things.
But I'm serious. But my point being, if your dog has something like an ear infection, or they have a small lesion, or they have a lump or a bump and you're just not sure what it is, or they have diarrhea, or any of these things that happen on a regular basis, it's really difficult right now to get care. So the number one thing for me is preventative care. If you know about your animal and husbandry and how to care for your animal, you are going to be able to prevent vet visits, period.
Yeah, get ear cleaner.
Yeah,
use ear dryer.
Guys,
dry your dog off.
Please. The certification that I get for pet CPR is amazing. And I'll link it in the bio for this podcast episode. I am telling you, the more you know about your dog, the more you can prevent those unnecessary vet visits. I swear. Because if you know how to give basic care, you know how to clean your animal, you know how, to stay up to date on things like flea and tick, on heartworm, on all of these other items.
Even brushing teeth, guys.
Yeah, and grooming, basic grooming. Like I find so many things just by grooming a dog sometimes. And that's why actually I have a few dogs actually that are on a schedule. And I'll be like, oh, your dog really doesn't need to be washed. And the owners want me to do that because we find things.
I think they should be washed almost every 4 weeks, no matter what the breed
Yeah.
is, because you find lumps, bumps, cuts, and hot spots.
Yeah.
And hot spots are crazy. And if you don't have a dog that you should have a groomer that you have a relationship with. And if you don't feel like brushing your dog, then you should have a set amount of weeks that you see your groomer, 3 to 4, and shave them down, guys. I'm not talking about Goldens and Labs. I'm talking about long-haired dogs. If your dog is very active, or you have a doodle and you didn't realize how much grooming is a part of their life, can you just shave them down? Because you're going to deal with other things like hot spots or matting around the mouth, or
even more simple things like there's a tick on your dog and it's now the size of a quarter. I'm like, your dog might have Lyme disease. Things like this are really important. And if you just handle the dog in that way where you're cleaning them, you just find stuff. There's no two ways about it. Like I'll even say to people, I'm just giving a basic wash. I've pulled like 10, 15 ticks off of a dog, dogs before that aren't on NexGard, or maybe they have a Seresto collar that's old. Like all of these items can, in the long run, save you money if you just know what to look for and how to care for the dog. So all that being said, everything is crazy right now, you guys. Everything. Training, walking. I have up on my website that I'm only taking new clients for dog walking that are, complete training with us here. And I've put it out there on social media as well. And I'm still getting calls, new client inquiries, because people are up a creek with the need for dog walking, and I just can't do it.
And then one more thing I'll say about the dog that ripped the pad, because I think it's important. If somebody else is taking care of your dog, whether it's a walker or a trainer or whatever, sometimes we have to bring that dog to the vet, even though we think it's a problem we can solve on our own.
Yeah.
If Buddha has ripped his pad before and I took a pair of scissors and I cut it off, it's disgusting. I cut it off. I washed it every day, put it under a medical wash, and he was fine. I didn't have to go to the vet and spend an exorbitant amount of money. But imagine if I dropped your dog off after a walk or after a training session and it had a ripped pad and I was like, hey, why don't you just cut it off and clean it? Like, that is not an acceptable answer to somebody who is not a dog person. I forgot who said this, but there are dog lovers and dog people. Oh, I know where. I was watching Pipples and Parolees. And there are dog lovers and dog people, and we're dog people. So we're used to it. We see it all the time, and we can clean it and fix a lot of problems on our own. Like even my vet had said to me once, you know how to handle this. And I was like, I do. It's just a level that I had never, it was just a lot of symptoms. Anyway, so if you think, oh my God, this person didn't have to bring the dog to the vet, we absolutely do, because you entrusted your dog in our care, and we needed to take care of the situation and let you know that we had done all we can to take care of it. Like, I won't take care of it on my own because I don't want you to think, oh my God, this lady just cut off the dog's pad for me and says, here's a medical wash it. I can't do that.
Right. It's totally out of our wheelhouse. And it's, I want to always do what's best for the animal regardless. And husbandry is huge, you guys. Working with somebody that has a basic understanding of when something is right or wrong is huge. And it's a hard thing because it requires you to really know what you're doing. And it requires a person that's caring for the animal to have a little bit of experience and common sense. And guys, if you don't have the experience because you just started out, go take a pet CPR course. You literally will learn more in the course of 5-6 hours, and you'll learn more than you even ever need to, and then apply it. And it's simple things like I carry a backpack with me when I go into the woods with dogs. And in that backpack are, is a full pet CPR kit, a towel, an extra leash, a knife. These things are important to have with you because it just really helps to prevent anything from happening. I carry water with me, especially in this weather as well. And it helps if I need to, clean something or whatever. So it goes a long way. But be prepared, be preventative, build relationships where you need to, and ask for help if you need to. It is really important that if you have a dog, you're thinking about getting a dog, that you develop these good relationships with professionals if you have the resources to do so. And if you are anticipating going back to work.
You have to start looking for dog walkers before you even get the dog.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then another thing too with the heat that my clients keep, oh God, that my dog families keep mentioning is if it's a puppy, sometimes they'll have a few more accidents in the summer. Well, guess what? They're drinking more water, guys. So you have to bring them out more often. Another thing is a loose stool. So they're having a bit of diarrhea. And also the heat can affect that as well, guys. So we have to be wary of that. Sometimes it's as easy as waiting. If your dog has been playing or just came back from a run or anything like that, why don't you give them an hour to relax and catch their breath and, let them have water, but not in excess because, dogs will drink water till they throw up. They'll drink, gulp, gulp, and then they're puking up water on the side. Let them have some small amounts of water. Be wary if they're excessively panting or drooling, and just know that sometimes GI upset happens during the heat. And then, it's very rare occasions I've seen. I mean, the person who's... You'll know if it's bad. If the dog has heat stroke, you should look up signs of heat stroke and make sure that you are aware of it. So that's it.
Basic husbandry.
Anywho, so
basic stuff.
I feel like we had to mention that stuff because it's really been coming up a lot lately.
Let me tell you, I hear a lot of famous dog trainers, and what I mean by famous is they're very accessible if you do a Google search. And they really poo-poo the whole certification process for dog training. It's an unregulated industry. It's something that the dog training industry really struggles with. But let me tell you, if you get a CPDT or an IACP certification, you learn two really important things. More than two, but two really important things. Number one, you learn how to train a dog. What do I mean by that? You understand how dogs learn. First and foremost, you will understand how dogs learn things. And I know that I shouldn't have to say that, but I do, because I see a lot of trainers on social media, and it's quite clear that they don't understand like the basics behind motivation or like marking and rewarding and things like that. So if you're following a famous trainer that is preaching from a pulpit that says certifications are trash, it's just not true, because if you go through one of these certification programs, you will learn the basics, and then it is up to you to apply them. Number two thing that you will learn is how to care for animals. You will learn how they function physiologically at a basic level so that you can make decisions like the ones that we are talking about. And those two things are important. So people that are out there saying, the certification processes are a bunch of crap, it's just not right. It's not right. Are they perfect? No, they're not perfect. But what I learned through my certification, what I continue to learn, is really important. And then obviously what I learned just by hanging around with Laurie is exceptional. So
yeah, or if you see, or if they're not certified or have letters after their name, that they're old. I want to see an old school dog trainer.
Yeah, somebody
who's no nonsense. Screw you. I know exactly what I'm doing. I got to tell you, I'd much rather walk into a person like that than some friggin' happy-go-lucky, too happy, too positive. I mean, this is not. I need somebody who's straight to the point, black and white, gets the job done, and considers the human and the dog in training. So you can tell who those people are when you walk in. If it's all roses, I got to tell you, I don't know if that's dog training. In learning, there's negatives and positives, people. So
right.
Don't think that everything's happy-go-lucky. It's one in 10 dogs that can live their whole life positive and not have any correction in their life. So that's just how I feel about that. Anyway.
All right. I want to get into a specific...
Look at this dog. Sorry.
He sits like a statue, Ruben does. He looks like a statue.
The boys are with us. You can hear him chewing, right? So Buddha and Ruben are here too. Let's all thank them. Yeah. Hey, guys.
Okay, I wanted to switch gears here for the next 10 or so minutes before we wrap things up and talk a little bit of meat and potatoes. And you're going to be listening to me quite a bit because I haven't actually told you any of my ideas.
And I didn't read it.
Can you talk closer to the microphone?
I just didn't read it. What you were reading,
right?
It looks like such a painful book to me.
It's brutal. So aside from what I'm about to talk about, I am plowing my way through Genetics and the Social Behavior of Dogs, which is an old book published in 1965.
1965.
Yes, but it is one of the most well-known studies done on dogs ever. And it just basically takes a bunch of breeds of dogs, runs a bunch of tests on them, and draws a bunch of conclusions. And one of the most notable conclusions from the book is that, socializing a puppy at a young age, despite whatever their genetic makeup is, really shapes the dog's behavior. And that's something that we know very well today because of this book and the studies that were done in this book. That being said, it is a rough read. And one of the pen. Okay. Oh, sorry. And that being said, one of the things that I realized from reading this book is that scientific studies, man, they're really involved, especially ones that involve live animals, especially the live animals that have the lifespan that dogs have. And if you're so inclined, I would encourage you to read the book. And if not, read some sort of synapse or abstract of the book, because if you're into dogs and dog behavior, it's a must read. But anyway, the reason why I got turned on to this book is because I did a seminar back in May. It was an online seminar with Wolf Park out in Indiana. They ran a seminar hosted and taught by Clive Wynn, who is a professor at Arizona State University. Really cool guy, British guy, really well-spoken, easy to listen to. And he ran a seminar on wolves versus dogs, and just kind of the comparisons and, just different conclusions that we can draw based on behavior. And the name of the seminar was, I'm blanking.
Uh-oh.
Dog is dog and wolf is wild, I think was the name of the seminar. And it was just kind of comparing how, oftentimes the laymen will try to compare wolves to dogs. And it's really difficult to do because wolves are wild animals while dogs are domesticated. But one of the really cool things that he brought up in one of the segments of the seminar was the difference between how wolves and dogs work together in a pack, how they interact with one another, and how they divide resources among each other. And he put a graph up on the screen that I screenshotted, but there was a study done, and the study was done in 2017. I found it online after the fact, and basically they compared how two wolves divided resources compared to how two dogs divided resources. And the resource that they used in the study was a carcass. So what they found was, and he just threw this up and then kind of started talking about it, but it really stuck with me. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But the bottom line is, when wolves are left together, so you have two wolves, one of them is going to be an alpha wolf and the other is going to be a beta wolf. But they divided resources pretty much evenly, and they kind of worked together as a team in a subsequent study. So the study had two parts. One was this, how do they divide resources? And the other was a separate study that I might talk about in a second. But the way the wolves divided their resources was not completely even, but pretty even. So it was like 60-40. They found when dogs were given the same opportunity to have access to the resource being a carcass, one dog took 90% of the resource while the other took 10. And and this was a domesticated dog. So I'm going to go ahead and read the abstract to the study. And the reason why this kind of really piqued my interest is because so many people have two dogs in their home. So many people want to get another dog after they have a first dog and they've had great success. And we hear a lot.
Or no success.
Yeah, or no success.
Okay, we won't go there.
But in our little antidote, right? Our little tiny swath of the dog population, a lot of our clients and a lot of people that come to us for training, they have two dogs in the same house. And in some cases, there is some really messed up stuff going on inside the home. And at the basis of it, there is a misconception, I believe, of the way that dogs learn from each other. So I hear a lot sometimes of people saying, my first dog is so great, I want to get a puppy so that my first dog can teach my puppy everything that it knows so that my puppy can pick up on their habits and assimilate in the same way.
But they're going to eat 90% of the carcass. I'm just kidding.
Right. And then I see this study where I'm just like, holy shit. Here is a study that is, exemplifying scientifically how basically if dogs are left to their own devices, one of them is going to be screwed and the other one is not. And obviously scientific studies and their application needs to be done very gently. And it's not like you can take a study and say, okay, now I'm going to apply it to my own little life where I have this dog and that dog and whatever. But I do think that a certain amount of this information should change our mindset about how we approach dog to dog interaction and how we approach what our responsibility is within that interaction and within those relationships. So I'm going to go ahead and read the abstract of the study. I also read 2 subsequent articles that were written after the study came out, just kind of deducing the study and, kind of making other claims, which happens all the time with scientific studies. Okay. Should say first and foremost, the study was done at the Wolf Science Center in Vienna, Austria. And I believe the main scientist here doing the study, her name was Rachel Dale. Food sharing is relatively widespread across the animal kingdom, but research into the socio-ecological factors affecting this activity has predominantly focused on primates. These studies do suggest that food tolerance is linked to the social relationship with potential partners. Therefore, the current study aimed to assess the social factors which influence food tolerance in 2 candids, wolves and dogs. We presented wolves and dogs with the 2 paradigms, didactic tolerance test and group carcass feedings. In the didactic setting, the affiliative relationship with a partner was the most important factor, with a strong bond promoting more sharing in both species. In the group setting, however, rank was the primary factor determining feeding behavior. And this was the important part. So this is talking about the group setting, feeding on the carcass, not the didactic tolerance test. This is continued in the abstract. Although the dominant individuals of both species defended the carcasses more than the subordinates, in the dogs, the subordinates mostly stayed away from the resource and the most dominant individual monopolized the food. In the wolves, the subordinates spent as much time as dominant individuals in proximity to and feeding from the carcass. Furthermore, subordinate wolves were more able to use persistent strategies than the dogs were. Feeding interactions in the wolves, but not the dogs, were also modulated by whether the carcass was on the ground or hanging from a tree. Overall, the social relationship with the partner is important in food distribution in wolves and dogs, but the precise effect are dependent on species and feeding context. We consider how the different socio-ecologies of the 2 species may be linked to these findings. So, all that to say, there were 2 parts of the study. The first was a didactic tolerance test, which basically, I'm not going to get too much into it, but rewarded the wolves and the dogs for sharing, basically. So if a dog shared with another dog and got rewarded for it, would the dog find that actually rewarding? And then they did the same for the wolves. The interesting part for me was this carcass feeding. So with the carcass feeding, they find that the more dominant dog takes the majority of the resources. So for me as a pet dog trainer, again, it's not like I can take this information and then just kind of subsequently push it onto my little anecdotal, I guess, experiments, you could call them. But how does it change my mindset as far as how we interact with 2 dogs that are living in the same household? And I want to read a little bit more here about from the other articles that I found that were assessing this particular study. All right, here. Okay, and this is from an article published in the Smithsonian Magazine titled "Why Wolves Work Together While Dogs Do Not, Contrary to Popular Belief. Domestication has made dogs less likely to cooperate to get food than wolves." The scientists tested the canines using the loose string test. This is going to be the didactic training test that I talked about in the abstract, which involves placing pairs of dogs or wolves in front of a cage with a tray of food in it. In order to slide the tray out of the cage, both animals had to pull on a rope simultaneously. When the animals tested were not initially trained to pull the ropes, 5 out of 7 wolf pairs were able to figure out the test and cooperate enough to get the food in at least one trial. But for the dogs, only 1 pair in 8 cooperated enough to figure out the test, and they only accomplished it in a single trial. Quote, by the scientist, we were surprised at how little the dogs did cooperate. We expected a difference, but perhaps we were not quite prepared at how big of a difference we saw. And I'm just going to read a little bit from the end.
Get the rope. No, you get the rope.
No, you get the rope. Yeah, screw you. Mom's going to get it for me anyway. They usually just put the ball
on the floor. It's just so stupid.
Yeah, I know. What is this?
The wolves, meanwhile, like, all right, what we have to do here is... Anyhow.
Continuing with this assessment from the Smithsonian Magazine, dogs, when left to fend for themselves in wild or semi-wild conditions, raise their young on their own and look for food as individuals and not as a group. The study also shows that research needs to conduct more studies on free-ranging dogs. That is really important. Put that in the back of your mind because I want to talk a little bit about that in a second. Quote, pet dogs are really recent inventions, and free-ranging dogs are more representative of the earlier stages of domestication. We need to base our theories on different understanding of what a dog is. End quote. There are several theories for why semi-wild dogs aren't as cooperative as wolves. As Young reports, it's possible that in the process of domestication, humans, rather than other dogs, stepped into the role of dogs' social partners. It's also possible that the lack of cooperation is an adaptation to living in a human environment where the ability to grab a snack from the trash is more important than cooperating to take down an elk. So this study and these... I know Laurie's laughing at me because I'm so nerdy.
Go through the trash. We're going to take down an elk today. No need to feed me, Mother. When we're walking over in the fells, we'll just get a little snack.
And I'm going to end my reading here with a quote from Rachel Dale, who was the lead scientist on this study. This study shows that domestication did not necessarily make dogs more pro-social. Rather, it seems that tolerance and generosity towards group members help to produce high levels of cooperation as seen in wolves. The authors caution that their conclusions do not necessarily apply to pet dogs and that further research is necessary to tease out the differences in pro-social behavior between pet dogs and pack dogs. In the case of pet dogs, encouragement and training may play a more significant role in the animal's behavior. So, guys, if you're a trainer, you may be nerding out as much as I am on this stuff, but this is really important for us as trainers and us as dog owners to understand that our influence on how dogs interact in the home or on your property is vitally important. If you are leaving your dogs together to fend for themselves without management, without understanding of basic behavior, you're going to run into problems, I think is the bottom line. And it's funny to me too that the study really goes out of its way to delineate between pack dogs and pet dogs. The reason being is because so many dogs are being rescued. And we don't know, so many dogs are being rescued from places like Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, where these dogs are street dogs. They are pack dogs. And we bring them into our homes and have an expectation that they're going to behave in a certain way. So I look at my dog Reuben versus our dog Buddha. Buddha's food drive, low. Reuben's food drive, high. If they were left together to fend for themselves, I don't know, Laurie, what do you think would happen? Talking to the microphone too, because I know that you're relaxing because I'm going on and on.
I don't know. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, Buddha always gets what he wants, but he definitely says to Reuben, go ahead. Go ahead. It's not that important to me. I always figure Buddha's very solid in himself. I have only seen him really correct a dog when it's completely overwhelming. Ruben would certainly survive. Ruben's the first one that's going to go into a dumpster.
Right.
Yeah, he's the first one that's going to be a squirrely little asshole that's going to bite somebody that goes to pick him up.
Yeah, and big time guards food and resources from other dogs.
You're not saving
but
Ruben.
will not
He's
even
fine.
Will not even guard a resource from a human, no matter what.
Yeah, it's other dogs that his thing.
Right.
I mean, we see a lot of guarding from rescue dogs because they've had to fend for themselves for so long.
Right. And to me, it's like when I read this and I'm like, holy shit, like here's wolves, wild animals, working together as a team in order to achieve a goal. And dogs are not that way at all. They're not that way at all. And as the article says, we don't
all for one.
Exactly. And we don't exactly know why. It's a
encourage.
Exactly.
We're
exactly.
their person.
We encourage it and we're their person, but it just blows my mind because so many people come to us and say, I want to get a second dog, but don't have a bottom line base for understanding behavior and understanding how they have to manage to having two dogs in the same house. Especially if you have like a 4 or 5 year old dog and you're like, I want to get a puppy.
Or imagine your own puppy that you suffered through, because puppies are not easy, guys. Raising puppies is not easy. You're exhausted. You're so happy when they're bathroom trained. And then you get 2 of them at the same time. Come on. It's just really hard for normal people, for dog lovers. Dog people put up this crazy... I mean, I control all variables as much as possible to avoid correction for as long as I have to. But
Amen. I should write that down.
But we have so many families who there's so much going on in the house. You just can't create this controlled environment because your kid's getting chewed up on the floor. She's trying to hug your dog too much or put a tutu on it. Like, it's just so hard for families. You have so much going on and moms are so overwhelmed. And you have to have I have some really awesome families and I have some really awesome kids who step up to training. I have one kid right now. Oh my God, I love him. And I feel like he could be a trainer. He's just so good and so smart and so nice to talk to. To find a kid these days that interacts with you and really cares about their dog, I got to tell you guys, it's enough for me to note it. Leah can tell you, I'll come back from a class and say, wow, that kid was amazing. That kid really knew what they were doing. Or that kid really cares. I see such an attachment to electronic devices over dogs. Sorry, Buddha just took a bone, knocked a cable over. But really, when you get a dog, parents, you have to assume that you're going to be the main caretaker of this animal.
Yeah, it's not going to be your other dog that's going to be taking care of the new dog. I think that is a huge takeaway from...
Especially if your dog's a tool.
Right, but from the things that I was just reading, the anecdotal stuff that Laurie was just saying, to me, that's a huge takeaway. Is your dogs may or may not, we're not for sure, but they may or may not be hardwired to kind of hate each other. So it's our job to step in and show them the way. And dogs are one of the very few species that we can do this with because they're domesticated, because they evolved with us. And I don't want to even say that lightly. That is this huge, crazy anomaly. Other species, they don't assimilate with us like this. And watching, it was really cool. So when I did this seminar with Wolf Park, they did about 2 hours where they took the camera, and I was so grateful because they just had great footage and they had microphones on the instructors so I could hear everything that they were saying, and brought us into the wolf sanctuary, I guess you could say. Beautiful, outdoor, fenced in, big, I think it was 8 acres. And some of these wolves had better obedience than a lot of the pet dogs that we train, right? But they're still wild animals. And they do everything voluntarily. So in dog training, we often talk about correction, right? So we're 4 quadrants of the learning theory, yada, yada. You can't use that with wolves. Like you try to correct a wolf and they're going to bite you. Like there's just no, and they're wild animals. So you work with them on their own will. So I remember the instructor coming on the camera and basically saying, if a wolf is disinterested in us, we leave them alone until they're ready to come up to us, and then we start interacting and training, and all the training is positive reinforcement. That's the only way that they can train. Yeah, we need to go to Wolf Hollow up in Ipswich.
That sounds like a nice present you could get me.
Yeah.
Yeah. What did you do in your spare time? I put on my heels and my dress, and I went to a wolf reservation.
But it was absolutely fascinating to see how the handlers worked with the wolves. But it's very different than dog training. And it's also very frustrating in a way because we have so much scientific data on wolves that people try to just assimilate that to dog training. And that's frustrating too, because all of the learning theory that's applied to wolves is positive reinforcement. It's the only chance that they have to succeed. With dogs, it's different. We have a different relationship with them. They've evolved differently next to us. So we're able to use things like negative reinforcement and positive punishment in order to achieve the goals that we are looking to achieve. And, if we didn't, we wouldn't have this spectacular relationship that we are able to have with them. But all that to say, it does affect the relationships that dogs have with one another. So it's our responsibility. The bottom line for this whole episode and my mentality going into this episode, learning this, kind of newish stuff, is if you have one dog and you want to add a second dog, you have to go through the process of understanding their behavior and understanding how to manage their time and space so that they do not resource guard against one another, I think is kind of like the takeaway from me. And so that they respect one another in their space. Because if you have two dogs in your home and they don't get along, I swear to God, you are going to live in hell.
Yeah, sucks.
It's
all
horrible.
that heavy management sucks. Like imagine if we let Ruben was very respectful of Ripa in the beginning because we brought her to the adoption to Schultz Guest House which was really nice. Honestly, it was one of the best adoption processes ever was at Schultz Guest House, and we were able to bring our own dog. And if we had kids, which we don't, we could have brought the whole family. We could have brought mom and dad and seen how the dog interacted with them. But there were two left, and it was Ruben and his brother among the other dogs that we just like shushed off kind of. And he was more respectful to Ripa than his brother. So that's how he won. They both had great food drive, great toy drive. They were so cute.
Very social.
So cute in the kennel. Yeah, like
very social puppies.
We took Ruben out on a walk, and I remember slamming a metal sign, and he was fine with it. And Ruben never looked back when he left the Schultz Guest House. He was like, thank goodness, I'm out of here. Doot, 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 trotted right to the car. I said, Leah, did you notice he didn't even look back? He didn't even care 2 cents. But we picked him because he respected Ripa. He just looked at her in awe, the way I looked at Ripa in awe, and I miss her every day. Oh, God. It's just terrible. I miss her every day.
Hard.
Anyway, so it's the only thing that'll make me cry, guys, is my old dogs.
But it was an important point because, there we are making a decision that's going to last the next 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years.
Yeah, and he looked at
based on whether or not he got along
with such love
with our old dog.
Yeah.
And this literally transpired in 10 minutes.
And we raised them separately.
Yeah.
We raised Ruben as if he wasn't even with Ripa. And then when his obedience got really nice, he's holding a sit or, we had him on leash and he was focused on us. Once we got his focus on us, Ripa was always milling about, but we had her take part in obedience as well. And then that's how we melded them together. And there was only one incident where they were playing ball and Ripa goes, maybe you shouldn't touch my ball. And it was on a Sunday. And I told Leah that the vets weren't open.
It was Christmas.
And I didn't feel
it was Christmas Day.
Christmas Day, Leah says, hey, why don't we let them play ball in the snow? I go, I don't think that's great.
And Ruben literally weighed maybe 11 or 12 pounds.
Yeah. And
he was 10 pounds when he got him. This was 10 days later.
And it was the one time he thought, maybe I'll try to get the ball before Ripa does. And Ripa, thank God, gave him a correction that didn't involve a vet visit. And I just watched it all unfold as I imagined it would. And so I'm very grateful that all turned out well. But we raise our dogs separately, and then once their focus is on us, we introduce the whole pack. But people it's just not a wise idea to say, Chuck that goes through the trash is definitely going to teach my young puppy not to go to the bathroom inside.
Yes,
you
absolutely.
Go pound sand.
You have to
this
pound
kid,
sand
come on.
if you think that way, and you have to find the resources that are going to help you change your mentality.
I
Because
can't take care of my dog. Let me get another dog. It's just you're just asking for double strain.
Absolutely. And at this point, there's science to back up my opinion about it. So I feel as though that's empowering for me, and it should be empowering for you if you're listening to this podcast. I know a lot of trainers have multiple dogs, and it's kind of like we don't even think about it. We don't think about the way they interact or how our contribution to those relationships really affect the way that they grow up.
Yeah, like they're domesticated. We are the pack leader.
Right.
So stop it.
Yeah. You have to be strong. And I think it's really hard. I had a class with somebody the other day, and she said, I can't even get my kids off of their devices to come to a training class or to pay attention to this dog.
Frankly, I don't want them in a training class because they don't want to be there.
And I almost want to say, this is your chance. Like, now is your shot. Like, your dog doesn't give two shits about a device. They don't. Like, you can show your dog a picture of themselves and they'll close their eyes. Like, they don't care. It's not part of who they are and how they live and how they've evolved. And to me, it's like this like little glimmer of hope and like this grounding force to keep us as like organic beings that are living in Earth, because we're just like cyborgs with our devices and with our constant connectivity and need for comfort and need for everything to be so accessible all the time and for communication to be seamless. And like dogs aren't that way, and they really force us to like connect with that primal nature.
What a nice thing.
Yeah. And take advantage of that. Take advantage of it. And if you have one dog, you want to get a second dog, like that's cool. That is totally fine. But just do your homework, understand what motivates them, understand that naturally it may not be in their nature to work together as a team. And we know that now because we have studies that show that they suck at it.
But they can work as a team with you.
Yes.
But
Man,
they can I love my dog so much.
But they can work as a team with you. And if you learn how to do that and you find somebody that can help you along the way, I think that you will be in great shape. So if you found this episode interesting, please like, subscribe, and share the podcast. I am super grateful for everybody that has contributed on Patreon. I very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
There's a $5 tip jar you can throw monthly to keep us going. I have a really exciting interview that's happening next week, and that will drop on Monday. I believe the date is going to be the 19th of July. This episode is going to drop on Monday, which is going to be the 12th of July. So again, if you're into what we are saying and what we are doing, please appreciate us by liking and sharing and subscribing and reviewing the podcast. Additionally, I just wanted to say that we are super grateful for Crate Escape, located in Belmont and Cambridge. We run group classes out at Crate Escape, and they have been a great ally to us. If you're interested in checking out their Cambridge location, you can use the code FPB15 and save 15% on your merchandise. Additionally, if you go to bettervet.com, and use the code FPB75, you can save $75 on your first visit if you are into mobile vet services. They're great, and you can save some cash and hopefully get great vet services in this time where we are having a hard time with vet services. So bettervet.com, FPB75, saves you $75 on your first vet visit. Signing off for now.
Also, Thank you for everyone that comes to our group classes.
Yes.
You have huge progress. We're so thankful for you. And in the times that we're so tired and so overworked, like how I feel very often lately, I always focus on the people who do the work, appreciate me, and appreciate us.
You are a bright light. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We really appreciate that. So I hope that you have a good weekend, and it's supposed to stop raining from what I heard.
Hallelujah. All right. Thank you guys for checking it out. See you next time.
Bye.